Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL. Now, breaking news from WMAL.
This story just crossing in the last few minutes. American Airlines and American Eagle Airlines and parent company AMR are filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And they say the most important thing you need to know is that all flights will continue today. We'll have more details on this as they become available.
Patricia Cora from News Desk of the Wall Street Journal will join us in about 10 minutes. Dr. Walid Phares is on the line. He's the author of The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. Also a Fox News Middle East expert. Lots of things to get into, Dr. Phares. Let's start off with Egypt, where elections are being held. Apparently, it's a very long process. These elections will actually go into next year before all is said and done. I did read somewhere where someone wrote, it's not a question of whether Islamists will win, but by how wide the margin will be. Do you agree with that assessment?
I made that assessment months ago, actually. Yes, indeed. The Muslim Brotherhood, their party, and their allies, the Islamist Salafists, are projected to get somewhere between 40% and probably together getting a simple majority of 51 plus. That means that the next parliament will be controlled by the Islamists. They will try to reach out to other secular forces just to show that the next cabinet is not going to be exclusively Islamist, but basically it will be in terms of political decisions.
And does that mean that they will control the military as well?
They're very shrewd. They're not going to jump immediately on the command of the armed forces or the Ministry of Defense. They are going to strike a deal, another deal, with the armed forces, which they have done over the year. And number two, they're going to focus on soft power, because that would be their future power, and that would be Ministry of Education, of Social Affairs, of Economics, and other related ministries, because they know that the Ministry of Education, for example, will control 20,000 schools and colleges in Egypt. That would be the biggest, madrasa machine in the Middle East, after Iran. So this is what the Muslim Brotherhood are going to try to do, and gradually change the foreign policy of Egypt. Do not expect a Iranian model overnight, but they're going to go gradually, put pressure on the Camp David agreement, change their relationship with us, but slice by slice, because the military are going to still be a important factor, as in Turkey. And it's not easy to remove them, but the Muslim Brotherhood will have the upper hand in all politics in Egypt when that happens.
Since this will be a gradual change, is there anything we can or should be doing on the ground to ensure that it's as little bad as it could be?
Well, we should have. I mean, first of all, we are, just to understand from the altitude I'm talking about, without going into the details, we are at minus 70. I mean, when the revolution began, the first weeks or days, we had a shot. We had a shot at partnering with, identifying, supporting civil society forces, the Facebook people, those who started it, the women's movement, the Copts Christians of Egypt. Unfortunately, we failed because foreign policy is determined by the administration. I mean, Congress has the funding, but that's a domestic issue to discuss probably in another subject. Basically, what we can still do now is talk to those same secular forces in civil society, and at the same time talk to the military, trying to cut a deal between those two. Unfortunately, our mismanagement of the issue of Egypt got the military and the Muslim Brotherhood to cut the deal, not the civilian secular society and the military.
There's so many things that I want to ask because there's so much going on in that part of the world. But let me talk about Iran for a minute. Iran issues a statement saying that if you come after our nuclear facilities, we will send 150,000 missiles toward Israel. And then also there are these stories that are out this morning, very interesting stories, that suggest that there have been some explosions at some of the Iranian nuclear missile and processing sites. What do you know about that?
Well, second item, it's the secret war, not the Cold War, the warm war, between a variety of Western/Arab moderate/Israeli intelligence services versus the Iranian and their allies in the region. That is the only real thing that is happening in addition to the sanctions. We're going to see more of it, by the way, and especially in the areas inhabited by ethnic minorities inside Iran. Now, the Iranian threat is on paper, possible because they have 45,000 of those missiles and rockets only in Lebanon. That's the open information about Hezbollah. You add to them a similar number out of Syria, and then the mainland capacity of Iran itself. But the serious part of it is not just those thousands of rockets, the little rockets. The serious part of them is the long-range, middle-range missiles such as the Shahab 2 and 3, which, if loaded with any sort of non-conventional, not just nuclear, chemical or biological, could harm seriously in Israel and Saudi Arabia, and they could reach us so far as long as we are in the region.
And very quickly, Pakistan, there was this incident that occurred between U.S.-led NATO forces and Pakistani forces. A lot of hard feelings over that. How does that get resolved?
Look, in a very direct way, the incident by itself, had it happened between allies, let's say, and it did happen with the French troops or British or Australian, we had a number of these incidents happening during the Kuwait War or World War II or other places, it would have been called friendly fire. There would have been an investigation. But the leadership of our allies wouldn't have been saying, we're going to cut relations over this, we're going to kick you out. So the issue is not just the incident. The issue is what's happening inside Pakistan. Why is the government making those statements? And my take on it is that there is a very vicious, fierce fight inside Pakistan between at least two camps. On the one hand is the secular cabinet, which is not very successful in terms of management of the country, of Mr. Zardari and the People's Party, who, by the way, are targeted by the Taliban. So they are in the same trench as us, but they are mediocre in their, confrontation with the Islamists. And then you have, count with me, part of the military and the intelligence that are sympathetic to the Islamists, the Islamist forces of Pakistan, and backing them the Taliban and the Haqqani network. So the Islamists plus the military are trying to push this government out, and one of the things they do every time we strike inside their areas or hit, in this case, their military, they are calling on the government to be either tough with us or leave.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Walid Phares, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks very much.